Hello, you vibrant community of gorgeous, brassy, bold movers and shakers. I hope this episode finds you well. I had the opportunity to attend my first John Maxwell event yesterday. He's like the man when it comes to leadership and has written about a gazillion best-selling books on the subject. Well, gazillion might be stretching it, but he's probably only 2 or 3 books shy of that number. It was really eye-opening and inspiring for me because the theme was on being significant. Not just being successful, but actually being significant and adding value to the lives of those people around you. He also taught on the importance of doing work that you feel passionate about. My guest today, Claire Hollenbeck, is the embodiment of someone that is passionate about her work, is having a significant impact, and someone that's working to add value to the lives of musicians, producers, and audio geeks like me and many of you. She's the Vice President of Education at iZotope, a company that makes award-winning products and audio technologies that are used everywhere, from Grammy-winning studios to bedroom studios across the world. I actually use a couple of their products to create this podcast. Claire is also an extremely gifted musician, songwriter, and film composer, and she released an EP as Razor Jane in 2014. We chat about her career and how her passion for music, technology, education, and business have all come together in the work that she's doing currently. Let's jump into my conversation with Claire Hollenbeck.
I started I remember kind of making up my own songs when I was pretty young. So about 6, I would stand out waiting for the bus and I would make up songs and sing them at the top of my lungs. And neighbors sometimes came out and was like, what's going on out there? So that's all I know.
Oh, that's fantastic. So when did you actually start learning to play instruments and write songs then?
Yeah, so I started playing drums in the Holy Rosary Marching Band when I was 9. And then I got a guitar for my birthday when I turned 10. And pretty much immediately after that, I started writing songs. So as soon as I learned my first 3 chords, I had a song going.
Was the guitar something that you had asked for? Or was it just like, hey, we should get Claire a guitar this year?
Yeah, no, I asked for it. Yeah, definitely wanted to do it.
What inspired that? Had you seen somebody playing on TV, or were you just like, hey, I'm writing these songs, I want to accompany myself with it?
I have no idea what kind of inspired that. I mean, music is all around us. People are playing. And so I think that was just, it seemed like something I wanted to do.
Tell us a little bit about your career path.
So what aspect, I guess, of which career, 'cause,
you know what? Yeah, exactly. Why don't we start with the film scoring?
Okay, sure. So I was doing, after college, I was doing rock bands in Boston. I'd had bands since I was, 13 or so. And I was doing that scene. And then I was playing a festival in Harvard Square, and I was approached by this filmmaker who said, oh, I'm doing a film and I need people to contribute songs. And so I actually went home and did I get a script from him before I did this? I might have. I wrote him, at least I know I wrote him the theme song, immediately. Cool. I wrote him a custom theme song. And then I was like, I can do all your music. Why don't you just let me do the whole thing? And he was like, okay, sure. So I ended up doing all the music and I wrote all the songs and I sequenced that film on my K2000. So that was my first experience really. I mean, I'd taken some electronic music courses in college, but, this was it was a full length film. And apart from the songs, which I wrote and recorded, I sequenced all the score.
Oh, cool.
And so that was brand new. And I guess a good experience to be looking down at this, tiny little screen and
yeah,
that stuff.
So after you got into that project, were you like, whoa, was it just kind of way more than you thought it would be? Or were you like, no, this is really doable?
I think I thought it was kind of a lot. I mean, there's, to write a few minutes of music is quite different. To write underscore is very different than songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And to write it for film, at that time, I didn't have my studio set up to be synchronous with the video. What I was doing was I was playing manually. I'd start a VHS and then like push play on my 2000. So it was all that.
Oh my gosh.
And, but it was a challenge, and I love a good challenge. And so it was, and I also, I really like being creative, doing things made to order, trying new things. So it was a great experience.
What was your biggest takeaway from that whole experience?
Well, the part I enjoyed most was writing the songs, and I did that subsequently for some other films after that, kind of writing custom songs. I like writing custom songs a lot. So, especially around characters in film. So, and it's something I can do pretty quickly,
Mm-hmm.
And pump out a variety of styles. So, I really loved that. I came out with, there was a good song that was at the beginning of the movie, which there's a big shot, a long shot. It goes on for 2 minutes or something, where the camera is following the character down the street and the song is playing. We recorded the song in a separate studio, and it's playing throughout that scene, and I timed it out so certain things happened, and it really worked. So, but I did come away with that experience thinking, hey, this band thing is a little bit of a bummer right now, so maybe I could get into this other thing, writing music for film. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Do you enjoy having the parameters? Like if you're writing a song for a specific character, how does that influence your writing? And is that easy? Is it almost easier if you've got those parameters as opposed to when you sit down and you're like, hey, I'm just going to write something today?
Yeah, I find it much easier. I really like, Song Chef. Give me what do you want to order? I'll whip it up for you. Yeah, I like that a lot.
So tell us about Razor Jane.
Yeah, so Razor Jane is a recent project that I put out an EP last year. I guess it's called Don't Look Down. It's a 5-song EP available on all the usual places. And I got, I had not been in music. What had happened is that I'd been doing music, been doing film scoring, all that. I'd had a day job. And then, as happens to so many of us, my day job became my real job.
Mm-hmm.
Real in that I was invested in it. It took up all my time. And I did enjoy it a lot. So, and it was nice. I was actually making money. That was also good.
That's a bonus.
So I did that for a number of years. And then I wanted to, I had written some songs while I'd been doing that, but not very many.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd had to I wrote a song for my daughter's bat mitzvah actually a few years ago. And that process of, I went back into the studio to write it. I made a little video, etc. And that kind of reminded me, hey, I don't need to make money at this right now. I have a real job, but I want to do this.
Yeah.
Continue to do this. And there's no reason that I shouldn't. And my friend Janine, who's, she's actually a film composer and somebody I'd worked with before, and a good friend of mine. She's like, why don't you just make your own album? And
yeah.
Okay. It just seemed so one of those things that young people do.
Right.
But, but here I was sitting in I have my own recording studio. I have the chops. I have the ability. So I'm like, well, why not?
Yeah.
And so that's really what I came out with Razor Jane, and that EP was kind of just a bunch of songs thrown together in not a particularly, it's not really an album, a cohesive work, but they're songs that were lying around that I was like, oh, do this song. And I wrote some new songs too for it. And it came out well. And I think the most fun for me was actually making the music videos. That was really fun.
Well, the Rewind video I love it. And I'm just smitten with Smokey the dog.
Thank you. That's my dog.
I wondered. How did Smokey come about?
So Smokey, for those of you listening, is an American hairless terrier. So he doesn't have hair. He doesn't have fur. and consequently, he has to wear clothes all the time. We live in the Northeast, so especially in the Northeast, and he wears, you should see the outfits in the winter. It's snow, layers and layers, and their boots, and wow, high maintenance dog.
Oh my
But
gosh.
we got him because I'm actually allergic to dogs, and so we found a dog that I wouldn't be as allergic to. He's a former grand champion show dog, in fact.
I saw that.
Yes. And so anyway, he came up from South Carolina up to Boston, that poor Smokey,
no.
cold. And anyway, he's so unusual. People always stop me when we're walking him or something and say, what is he? He looks like a little like an armadillo, a little bit like a Persian cat, who knows?
Right.
And he's wearing clothes too, so everybody's always wondering about that. So he had to be in the movie, and it wasn't that difficult. And I knew, when I'm thinking up the plots of my little videos, and there's another video called Head Lice, up there, in case anybody's wondering. What I'm thinking about is, I wonder how I can execute this. Like, who could be in my video? Who do I have access to?
Right, yeah.
Oh, I have a dog. Everybody loves dogs. That's what I was thinking. And, but it was terrific because he's also very well trained, having been a show dog. And so I only had to know pretty much one command for the whole shoot. It was one command, and that was, Smokey, wait. And if I held a banana, okay, so he loves bananas, and I would have little pieces of bananas, and I would stand behind the actress that he was supposed to be working with, and he would look right at me. But on camera, it would look as though he's looking at the actress.
Yeah.
But really, he's waiting. He's waiting for when I say, okay, Smokey here, and he can get his banana. And that was everything. Everything we did in that video was banana-based.
Oh, that's fantastic. How long did it take you to shoot the video and put everything together?
Yeah, so it was 2.5 days of shooting. And I have a good friend, Laurel Greenberg, who's my co-director on this. And we just kind of, we just finagled it. And we got a beautiful actress who's the heroine of the story, Francesca Schipsey. And we cast her. We actually put out an audition, a call for actresses, and we got quite a few back, and she was the one that we chose.
Cool.
And, we filmed around my house and around a friend's house, and we used all those things that people find around them that they don't have to pay for. So,
yeah, exactly. Oh, that's great. Tell us then how you landed at iZotope, where you are currently, and what you're doing there.
Sure. So I had been working for Pearson Education for a long time, which is a big educational publisher, and I had been doing professional development for teachers. And originally I was making little movies for teachers to help them use our technology, helping train them on various aspects of that. And it grew into me kind of running part of our professional development business, having a very large team of people who were educators, and making workshops, making courses, making things to help teachers be better. So I really enjoy that. I love instructional design. I want to put out things that are really effective and that are folks feel that after they've had a training experience, a learning experience, that they say, that was great. I really got something out of that. So I was kind of looking around. I did a search one day and looked for music jobs in the Boston area, which I had done in the past and never come up with anything very interesting. And I hit upon iZotope. And so I ended up meeting with the CEO, Mark Ethier, and the COO, and we just kind of hit it off. And they were vaguely thinking about education, and my resume came across their desk. They weren't really prepared yet to do anything. And then we met each other, and they found out that I have this experience in education and business, and I'm a total music geek and,
Yeah.
tech person. And they're like, so it was kind of a match made in heaven. It was great. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. So what do you hope to accomplish then in your position at iZotope?
Yeah. So I really want to help iZotope's customers and even just folks who are interested in the domains of mastering, the domains of music production and engineering. I want to help folks get better. Really, when we think about the challenges that we as musicians, producers have, so to a large extent, unless you're running your own studio at a commercial level, unless you have, a lot of years of experience, you're always learning. You're always improving your craft. And I want to be helping folks improve their craft, helping them get more out of our software. But even if they don't have our software, I want to help them gain skills, because that's really what separates something that sounds professional from something that doesn't. And it's all about skills and experience. So, and I'm trying to gain more myself all the time. So,
well, as a musician and a total geek and a huge fan of some of the iZotope products, I am so thankful that you're in this position.
Oh, good. Hope we can do our part for you.
I'm sure you will. What are some of your own challenges that you've faced in recording and mixing your own projects?
Well, I think it is that whole skills thing. Although I went to Berklee College of Music to study film scoring, I was not, they have a track for music production and engineering. I didn't take that. I simply set up my own studio and kind of learned on the job and learned from friends and learned from watching this and that. And so I know how to do what I know how to do. And then there's a whole bunch of stuff I don't know how to do. So I'm always trying to improve my skills. And I think that's the biggest challenge is, all right, I can engineer my own tracks. I overdubbed and recorded all my own tracks on the EP. I had basics recorded somewhere else. I left the mixing to somebody who was a more qualified mixer, and the mastering also to Jonathan Weiner, who's a great mastering engineer. But for me, sitting in my studio, how can I make the audio sound better? I'm not really concerned about the songwriting or the arrangements. I'm pretty confident in those. But, how do I get a more pristine sound, sound that the sound itself kind of knocks you over? Even in the EP last year, I recognized that because I was kind of just getting back into it, it didn't sound as good as I think it could sound. And now working at iZotope, of course, I'm keenly aware of the way things sound, believe me.
I bet.
And so I think going back and, when I record additional tracks in the future, I'm going to be more careful and do some other things to make sure those tracks sound pristine. But I would say that challenges, the biggest one is still, for me, it's skills and, learning new things.
What would you say, what do you know now that you wish that you would have known at that point when you were recording the EP, that maybe little tips or tweaks that you're like, oh, I didn't know I could do that, and that would have had a huge impact on the sound quality?
Right. Yeah, well, there are a few things. I would say, first of all, when I recorded that, I was not using as good an ADDA processor as I have now. So I was running my thing through, an old 828, a Motu 828, and I had a Mackie Onyx preamp, and later I found out, it was really pretty, it was kind of distorting, and I found that out because I got brand new gear, and I did a shootout between my preamps, and I did, I was like, oh, well, let's try that with the Onyx, and it's, sounded much worse.
Yeah.
So since then, I've gotten, first of all, I got an Apollo quad. So I have, I have good sounding converters. I'm recording at a higher sample rate. So I'm recording now at 88 rather than that. I was doing 24-bit, but I was doing 44. So that's not going to be as good.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
I have a really great preamp now. And It is it's a Millennium preamp. And I have also an awesome microphone, I was recording through a good microphone before. I was recording through a solid tube, and that was good. But now I have a Sony C800G, and that is an amazing microphone. The way I came to know that was that before we recorded the EP, Janine, who works at Berklee College of Music, we went into the studio there, and she pulled out a bunch of mics from the mic closet, right?
Nice.
And we tested my voice on the different things, and there was such a difference. I mean, all the Neumanns, all the German brands, whatever, they couldn't hold a candle to the Sony C800G.
Really?
But it's a really expensive microphone. It's a $10,000 microphone, but I found it on eBay.
Nice.
So after I'd recorded actually pretty much all my vocals, other things, then I found an amazing microphone, and she and I bought it together so that we'll have it for future projects, right? So now I have better equipment. That's one difference between last year and this year. I have better equipment. And I have, do I have some better sound dampening in my room a little bit? But I think that it's also just the knowledge that I can make it sound better. Like I don't have to settle. I think I was, if you're producing yourself, right, and you're playing a good bit of the instruments, you're like, you get tired after a while. You're like, that was good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe now I'd be like, I think I could do that take a little better, or something like that. So next time I think I'll try to pay more attention to that.
So which iZotope products do you actually use?
So I would say that I use Ozone, and I use, there are two ways you can use Ozone. You can use it as standalone if you're going to master your tracks. You can also use it as a plugin. And in fact, you can disaggregate the different modules so that you can have a single module, like an EQ, be on your track as a plugin. And
cool.
Lately, I've started to do that. I'm actually now I'm learning Ableton, and because I'm actually kind of embarking on learning more about electronic dance music. I've written some dance songs, believe it or not.
Wow!
There's no genre that goes untouched or something. And so I've been exploring using some of the Ozone plugins on those tracks, and they're good. They help.
Good to know. Very good to know. Yeah, I love Ozone because I will slap it on something and just immediately it's like, oh, it already sounds better.
Yeah.
And then because just having a starting place, I think just makes the process so much simpler.
Right.
So yeah, I love it for that. But speaking of that, every time I get a new piece of software, I just feel kind of this overwhelm of, okay, I know it can do all this really amazing stuff, but what's the best place to start to actually kind of get familiar and just kind of take it piece by piece to learn what, I guess what's the starting point? Okay,
well, I mean, that's a really interesting question. And we are all confronted with that because who has time to learn, right?
Right.
And in fact, I'm a digital performer user. I've been a long-time DP user because came from film scoring, and that was really the default for film scoring. And they have a new version out, which looks great. And I'm like, I've been meaning to get it, but first I have to learn all this other stuff in Ableton, and
yeah.
So you put it off and whatever, and then you end up opening it. And to tell you the truth, sometimes I go right to the quick start. If there are quick start videos, just to get the essence of the possibilities. I might not know how to do everything in the application, but just having an idea, oh, it can do that. Oh, I didn't even think of that thing.
Right.
Or, oh, let me put that in my thinking cap because later down the road, I might need that. And I can, just being aware of its existence, I can go and do a search for a YouTube video and maybe, dig into how to do it. I think when we buy software, we're usually buying things for a specific reason. we have a project and we're going to buy this thing that fills fits a gap in our current portfolio. And so maybe we just use it for that one thing. I guess it depends also kind of how comprehensive what you're buying is. Is it a DAW, or are you just buying a reverb plugin, or are you buying, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but and I do drink my own Kool-Aid because the tutorials, like those are valuable. I'll definitely take a look at those, or I might go on lynda.com, or I might go on some other curated site. I tend to find that YouTube videos are really hit and miss, and I prefer to go to those learning vendors who have really done a good job with laying out in a comprehensive way what's going on. So
fantastic. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Now a super important question. What superpower do you bring to the table for this new endeavor?
For the iZotope endeavor?
Yeah.
Well, I think I bring actually a lot of experience. I bring experience in the business realm, and in the learning realm, and in the bedroom producer realm. And hopefully there's a little speck of wisdom or something. But having you kind of know what works and what doesn't work, and you know how to get things done, and you're not afraid to speak up when you have an idea, and all that stuff. Earlier in one's career, it's more difficult to do all those things. You don't have as much experience to rely on to help track the roadmap for you. But I do have that, and I think that's actually the most valuable thing I bring.
Did you have a mentor along the way?
I've had different people that have, I'm sure, been kind of mentor-ish to me. Definitely. I had some wonderful bosses at Pearson that were terrific in a variety of aspects of my career development, including, running a development team, running a content development team, and thinking about being a good manager. And so looking at the big picture in terms of the marketplace, and thinking about business, not just thinking about the tiny little minutia, which we can get stuck in, but stepping back and being able to see the big picture. So yeah, I've definitely had very helpful folks along the way.
What would you say is the best advice that you've received so far, either personally or professionally, and how have you incorporated that into your daily life?
I think that I had a boss who was definitely into team development, and who really took care with the people who worked for her to help grow their skills, and to make work a place that was, a good place to be, a happy place to be, a place where you felt acknowledged for your contributions. And I've tried to do that in the teams that have worked for me in the past, and the people who have worked for me. And I try to always be patient. Things go wrong occasionally, and you just have to shake it off and say, well, next time we'll do better. Next time we'll remember such and such, rather than looking back and getting mad about things. So I think patience is something that's valuable that I've learned.
Yeah, that goes a long way. What have you found has been most critical, either to your success or actually people that are even around you? Have you found it to be their actual skill set, the network that they have, or just that whole attitude and being adaptable to whatever comes up?
Yeah, attitude goes a really long way. Friendliness, approachability goes a very long way. And I think you'd be surprised to find, I'm always surprised when I find people who are kind of jerks, because I just don't see how that works for them. You want to be able to be flexible. It's a requirement in business. You need to be adaptable. You also need to be friendly and respectful of the people around you. And believe me, you can go a long way on that. on that alone.
Definitely. So what's revving your creative engines right now?
So right now, actually, we're gearing up to, we're putting together some learning for some new things that iZotope is developing. And I'm trying to innovate some of the learning so that it's unique and differentiated and not the same old, same old. And it really is going to help cement the learning. It's not just going to be a kind of, one way push out kind of learning thing. It's going to be very interactive, very practical. I really want people to walk away from what we're making and really have enjoyed it, have gotten something from it, and be able to put what they learn to work immediately in their studios.
That's fantastic. I'm looking very forward to that.
Great.
So I'm going to create a Spotify companion playlist to go along with our conversation today. What music and artists have inspired you that we should have on that list? Wow.
There's so many. And I haven't thought about this question. I have to say that I know you mentioned it, but let's see. Inspired. Okay, well, I guess you could have a real mix here.
Okay.
So let's start with Rush.
Oh, nice.
Which was my favorite band in high school. And consequently, during that time period, I would write song cycles, right? Because Rush has many parts in their songs. So I'd write song cycles. And Rush, and I would say Elvis Costello, I love as a songwriter. Also, my good friend, Jonathan Brooke. Jonathan and I, grew up in the music scene in Boston, and she's a good friend, and she's doing really interesting work now in Broadway and other kind of places, as well as just her independent solo career.
Oh, nice.
Who else do I love? It was influential. PJ Harvey, very influential on my music. Nirvana was influential. The Smashing Pumpkins, influential. Let's see. More recently, I love the Killers. There are a lot of really great bands now that I can't, of course, think of. The Black Keys, I like a lot. Mm-hmm. So those are a handful of ones.
Is there anyone from a production standpoint that you're like, man, I just love the way their records sound?
Well, I know that you're asking that because I work at iZotope, but I have to say that as a songwriter, I listen to the songs. Mm-hmm. And I get what you mean. I mean, when Jonathan Weiner points out to me, oh, this such and such sounds so terrific, and you listen, you're like, you're right, it does sound amazing, but I don't really like the song. So I'm usually pulled in by the song. That's
okay.
My bias.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we'll let you have that.
Okay. All right.
All right. And what's the best way for folks to stay up on what's going on with you or what's going on with iZotope?
Yeah. So they can follow me on Twitter at my handle is at iZoedu. No dot in there, just at iZoedu. Also razorjane.com, and I'll be refreshing that site a bit, but people can find some of my music, and they can also get linked to my YouTube videos. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And I will have links to all of that in the show notes that go along with this episode. So thanks so much for chatting with us today.
All right. Thanks so much, Jen.
That's all, folks. You can check out the show notes at brassybroad.com. The conversation continues over at the Brassy Broadcast page on Facebook or on Twitter and Instagram at BrassyBroadGen. And don't forget to check out the playlist for this episode on Spotify. You can find me over there at BrassyBroadGen. One last thing. If you got a little nugget of value or just enjoyed the conversation, please leave a rating and review over at iTunes. Rumor has it that those ratings and reviews help more people discover the show. Or even better, share it with a friend that you think would dig it. Now be brazen, be bold, and get out in the world and do some good.